Hello, and welcome to the South Coast Artist Index, where artists, performers, and writers, as well as curators, directors, and supporters, anyone with ties to the creative community, drops by to introduce themselves to you. We'll talk about their beginnings, their vision, their passion, and so much more.
Hi, this is Ron Fortier. Welcome to another episode of the In Focus podcasts brought to you by the Artist Index. And we have with us today Dan Cooney. And Dan is a painter, but he also has an interesting real job. And I'm going to let him lead it off with that. And then we'll bring it on to some of the old basic stuff that I normally do on the show. And we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, how are you doing, Ron?
Good.
Thanks for the call.
You're welcome.
So you want me to introduce myself? Is that what it is?
Sure.
Hey, I'm Dan Cooney, Daniel Cooney, Daniel A. Cooney, spelled C-O-O-N-E-Y. I'm a visual artist, and I also import French wine and spirits with my wife, Christine.
Now, this would have been way cooler if you were in France right now.
Well, no, it's warmer there now. But
Yeah. So generally, you ask people, when did you get bitten by the art? I'm going to skip that totally for right now. And how did you get into this wine and spirits business?
well, I met Christine, who is from Cognac, France, on an airplane in Iceland 33 years ago, and got to know her, and we ended up getting married, and it's something that we're both interested in, and we just started building this portfolio with all these great family-owned distilleries that make incredible products, and we like it. And so I got to use some of my visual skills to help market the company, and Christine just has the knowledge because she grew up there, and the passion. So
I don't know if it's my imagination, but I can detect a little bit of a French accent. And
no,
have you been doing it for that long?
no, you don't really.
Ne peut pas bien de français?
Ouais, un petit peu, hein?
It sounded as funny.
Spending my COVID-19 time trying to get my French at a better level. I'm using the Duolingo app every day, about 20 minutes. So now I've got a lot to do to refine that, but it's worth doing now that we own a house there. So
Yeah. Okay. When did it all start for you? When did you know? When was that? A lot of people can pinpoint it to a specific moment when they knew this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be an artist. Did you have any moment like that?
yes, I think I did. Yeah, I think I mean, it's very young. I think I was 5 or 6. I have 7 brothers and sisters. We used to hang around the dining table after breakfast and just draw, and I enjoyed it, and it gave me some attention. From the parents we're all competing for, and I just liked the results. I just was engaged, and I kept going at it. And my grandfather was a painter. He was also a dentist, but he was a painter when he retired, and he was an inspiration. And when I was 9 and 10 years old, I lived in New Bedford over on Arnold Street, and used to ride my bike to Swain School of Design for Saturday morning art classes. So ended up going there for college, and it's just part of who I am. Always has been.
Now, the Saturday morning art classes, that's something that I've heard so many people of a certain generation, they really sigh when they think of those classes. For so many people, that was either the beginning for them of knowing they wanted to be an artist, or that was the thing that validated their feelings of wanting to be an artist. I heard that those classes were phenomenal.
Well, I think they were important. I think as a kid, you're 10 years old, you're looking for, something that means something to you, and it makes you feel I don't know, connected to other people who think the same way. And it was the first time that had happened in a sense, you know, besides sports and other things. But it was a very enjoyable memory of my life. I used to ride my bike there. I remember some of the kids. I remember Sheila Tierney was in the class, and John Pazalski, who was a guy who was on my Little League team. And I still have drawings from the time. Anyway, it was a good memory, and I got to build on it, and ended up teaching those classes when I was in college there, to some of the, some kids, that were the same age that I was when I first started.
Now, who were the I guess principal instructors of the Saturday morning classes there?
When I was there?
Yes.
I don't remember. I really don't remember the names, to be honest.
Was Francisco Raposo one of them?
Was he a teacher there?
He was,
He
yeah.
may have been a teacher, but not for the Saturday morning classes.
Okay.
We had a few different people, but and occasionally some of the students would come in, and we got to see this. We got to see that we actually worked in the studios where the older, the college students were doing their painting, and you could smell the oil paint, and it just gave you a sense of, wow, this is someplace I want to be one day, maybe,
Yeah, it's real.
It was a good memory.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, on Arnold Street, were you above Park or below Park?
I was what was the corner street, Roach, or maybe Brownell. There's about 4 blocks from.
So that was above Park, because it's Park, and then it was like I lived there for 35 years on East Clinton, which was a parallel street.
Yeah.
East Clinton ends, it gets blocked off by Park, and then you have like Ocean Atlantic, then is Brown, I think, and Roach. So yeah,
I think it was Roach and Brownell, I think, were the two on the either side of us, and we were parallel to Maple. And no, it was a good neighborhood. I still have memories of that neighborhood, but I haven't been back there in a long time. But every time I drive through the city and go near there, just you get flooded with memories of what it was like growing up there and such.
Now, what was school like for you, especially with this artistic consciousness? A lot of kids end up getting in trouble, and they end up doodling more than they do with their studies. I mean, how was that for you? How did it affect you?
Oh, I got accused of being a daydreamer sometimes, but yeah. But I never had any behavioral issues or anything like that I remember. But I don't know, it was something, it was always something that I, went to, either doodling or drawing, or when I first discovered photography and bought a camera, I was maybe 11 or 12, and I used to have to buy the film and wait 2 weeks to have it sent back after you anyway. So behavioral things I don't remember too much.
Yeah. So now the photography, is that something you still kept up with, or?
Well, I've always been attracted to photography because it was instant, and well, it's become instant, but it was a way of capturing images, fairly quickly, and one right after another. And I remember that's something David Smith said to me at my review at Swain at some point. Because I was interested in all of the mediums, and graphic design was not my strong suit, and that's why I ended up taking it. But as I was a painter, I could draw, and I liked the photography. And he thought the way my brain thinks is that I see imagery, quickly and one right after another, and he thought that would be, a good area to explore. And I have explored it. I ended up teaching photography at Bridgewater State for a number of years. And it's been fun to watch the whole evolution of the technology of photography. And the best camera I think I ever owned is my iPhone right now. And I love it. I got all the, as much memory as I could. And I take pictures like dozens a day. It's my notebook. It's It's my journal. It's everything.
No, I've heard so many of you who went to Swain talk about David Loeffler Smith, but I never really got a glimpse of him until just now when you told me how what he said during his review. Was he an intuitive man? Was he very intuitive with his students?
Oh, I suppose he was. I mean, it's funny when I picture David, I picture him with his eyes half closed, thinking about what he was going to say to you, and he was very thoughtful and very um, uh, specific in what he was trying to convey and the suggestions he was giving you. And I think I still have some drawings where he would actually do a little drawing on the side to illustrate what he meant on certain things, or point out some of the connections he saw running through my drawings or whatever, and say, hey, be aware of these and connect them or whatever. And so, I mean, was he thoughtful? Was he intuitive? Yeah, I think he was. He was a good teacher. I think anybody who had him, recognized that, and recognized that he cared, he was knowledgeable, and he could help one develop their own aesthetic interests and abilities. So I think that's why he's remembered so well.
I mean, other than the collective pain that the Swaineys feel for the loss of the institution and the transition, into UMass and well, SMU originally, but we'll get back to that. It seems David Loeffler Smith was another aspect of that thing. It's absolutely amazing, I guess, the gifts or the blessings, however you want to frame it, that you all received at that institution from individuals like David. Because, I mean, here, the oldest of you are what, in the 70s now?
I'm not in my 70s. I just barely turned 60. So I don't know.
No. Yes, but the oldest of you, not, the class that went before you.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm not sure how to answer that. So yeah, I don't know how long people were graduating from Swain under David's tutelage, but before me. But I said maybe I was in the middle of it, I suppose. But he wasn't the only great thing about the experience. He was just one part of it. I think some people, maybe, as much as he deserves a lot of great credit, he wasn't the only thing that made it great. I think what made it great was the environment that was created, that it was, you basically were eating, drinking, sleeping art and painting and drawing, and you went to classes and parties with all the same people, including a lot of the faculty. And it was just a great environment to absorb, learn, experiment, interact. And I at the time, I assumed all art schools were like this, and I kind of took it for granted. I think maybe some of us did, until I left and started attending other art schools. After I graduated. And I just never saw that same environment that was created, that nurturing, caring, interested environment that Swain had for us there. So,
yeah,
it was a loss. I think we feel that, but we didn't know at the time how important it was. But anyway.
So. I think you answered that question quite well. I mean, just in that last statement, and so many other guests that we've had on the show all express it in either similar ways or in parallel ways. The environment, the freedom, the caring, the family kind of atmosphere there. I know we had that at SMU, and probably more so in my graduate year at University of Miami. I'd never been in the service, but for some wacky reason, I felt as though I was in the service for 2 years because of the people that I hung around with. It was just, that camaraderie. That's the word I'm looking for. What was one of the high points of your experience there at Swain as a person, as an artist, art student?
Well, I don't know. It was 4 years. There was a lot of growth. Of course, you go in as a 18, 19-year-old student, and you come out, you're a different person. And it was during that time, I don't know, just think of some of the different things. But, well, I don't know. I think maybe the most important thing for me was that I went in as a painter and someone who could draw. So I had been doing it my whole life, and I knew that. And as much as I had great teachers, and I could have continued that, I did a hard thing. I ended up choosing. After 2 years, you have to choose your major, and the majors they had to offer was painting, printmaking, sculpture, or graphic design. And as I said earlier, the graphic design was my weakest area. I had no experience or mentors in that before, although I had done scrimshaw and I don't know. But other than that, in high school, I had no graphic design experience really. So I thought, well, as much as I know I'll always paint my whole life. I'll paint, I'll draw, I'll do that. But I thought, here's an opportunity that I could, learn something completely new and maybe incorporate the skills that a graphic designer learns, maybe structure and organization, and into myself and into my fine artwork. And I did that. I had some regrets because I think David Smith, he kind of he took it wrong. I think he took it personally that I didn't, major in painting, and our relationship was never much the same after that. But I learned a lot about graphic design, and it's basically opened a lot of doors for me in my life. And I still use the graphic design today. I do marketing. I do graphic design. I design book covers. I've designed labels for wine and spirits, and I'm happy with it. I'm happy having the balance of both worlds. So I guess that to me is probably the most important aspect of what I got out of it. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And also, I've never thought of the design faculty there. I don't think I could name one. Who was on there at the time on the faculty?
The ones, I mean, I remember it was Catherine Doherty was a good influence. Tom Corey, who ended up having a great design firm up in Boston afterwards, and was a big influence. Meg Sherman, who I didn't always agree with, but respected. These are names that come to mind when I was there.
Excellent. What transpired after Swain? Did you go on to graduate school, or?
Well, I did, but not right away. I stayed in New Bedford. I was at a time, when New Bedford was evolving and whatnot, and a lot of Whale was in full swing, and people were renovating things, and there was a lot. It was exciting place to be. I was working at the Whaling Museum, and I decided to hang around and start my own graphic design little company, and I did, and I think I called it DC Graphics or something like that. But I had some good clients. It's things like Center Jewelers, the WSAR and WPRO radio station, and a few others, and enough to keep me in town. I think I worked for Mars Bargain Land for a while in their graphic design department. So I did that for a few years, and then finally, the last thing I did before I left was created one of the first art lottery grants gave me money to create a television promotion called it was a PSA, public service announcement that aired on Channel 6. And the name of the campaign was New Bedford Has Arts, and hired Frank Grow to work with me to create a jingle. And we Kathleen McKenna and I, who Kathleen worked for Whaling City Cable, we went around and videoed all the art groups we could find, the Zeterian Theater, square dancing groups, galleries, whatever. We put together some PSAs promoting New Bedford arts. This was, back in around 1980, 81. and we got an award for it, and it was great. But it was just at that time. I think I only got to see air like a couple of weeks before Kathleen and I moved to San Francisco at the time, and that was it. And that was when I left New Bedford, and then I went to San Francisco, stayed there 10 years. During that time, I applied. I went to a lot of schools there for classes. San Francisco State, did the Young Museum School, California College of Arts and Crafts. I took classes everywhere, but ended up in the master's degree program in fine art and painting at UC Berkeley, and that was a great experience. And, yeah, so that's.
Do those PSAs still exist in some form?
I wish they did. I had a copy of them, and so did Kathleen. I was trying to hunt them down, and I don't know if it was Channel 6 that was airing it when they were at the top of county and Union.
Yes, that was Channel 6. Yeah.
And I really wish they did, but I lost my copy. I think I lost it in a flood, and I just can't. I couldn't locate it anywhere. But I did locate the jingle. I have the original cassette of the jingle of New Bedford House Arts. And in fact, it's funny you ask, just recently contacted Frank Groh, who's still around and still a great musician. And we talked about redoing this, and I'm maybe getting some new footage of all the New Bedford art scenes today and putting it together with that jingle and try to re-air it.
I think that's a great idea. I'd love to be able to have a copy of the original to put into the archive for the website, and that whole story, to tell you the truth, would be great in itself, just for another podcast, either with just you or with you and Frank Groh. That would be of interest to you.
I'd love to do it. I mean, I've been thinking about it lately, maybe because I'm, getting a little older or not, and I just recently got involved with Gallery X more deeply as their development director. They drafted me for, and
congratulations.
Thanks. It all happened just before the coronavirus hit, so it's going to be more of a challenge than I thought. But we are trying to put something together, and that's why I talked to Frank about maybe like redoing these some of these videos and promoting the arts in New Bedford again, Gallery X included. And so, maybe be happy to come back and talk about it if we can get this going. But it's funny. I was listening to the jingle and showing it to a few other people, and I think it really holds up. And I may have this young graphic design filmmaker who's from the region. He's just about to graduate from Bridgewater State, and he won an award for a film that he's created. And I think I have him interested, working together, and he may help me do this. We might try to get some grant money, but we'll see.
Oh, that's great. I mean, doing this show, I've been honored and to really be somehow involved in the writing of the history, because every guest brings me a basket full of pearls, things that people have forgotten about, and things that they're like spread out all over the place. It's like leaves, in the autumn, and breaking everything together into these bushels. It's just it's a great thing. So after San Francisco, you returned back to the right coast, as they call it, I guess.
Well, before I could answer that question, I just want to jump in and say, Ron, I think what you're doing is fantastic, and I really appreciate it. I think everybody does, and it's important, it's historic, and especially for the city of New Bedford, which has always been a great center and supporter of the arts and the crafts throughout history. I think what you're doing is fantastic. Thank you. But also, all right, to answer your question, after San Francisco, I ended up, Christine and I ended up getting married. I graduated from UC Berkeley. We had a son in 1993. And in 1994, we moved to France. A few things happened there. Christine's, both her dad and her grandfather died within the same year. And there was some need there for help with the family, and there was a big a farm property that we went and took over and tried to renovate. for 4.5 years, and it was a great experience. A hard experience, but a good experience. I think we did contribute to helping the family a little bit, and then finally decided to come back in '99, I believe. So then, then we relocated to the Cape for a year or two, and then I started teaching at Bridgewater State College, and so we moved. We bought a house in Lakeville, and that was back in 2001, and we've been here ever since. It's the longest that Christine or I has ever lived in one house, the same house. So we just realized that 2 years ago. But yeah, so that's it. And I was teaching there until 2012 as an adjunct. I think I taught every a different subject in the art department: drawing, painting, photography, art history, graphic design, sculpture. Even they needed somebody to do sculpture, 2D. But it was a great experience. I love teaching, and it was a great opportunity. During that time, I also offered study abroad classes in France, put together plein air painting classes, pinhole photography classes in France for like a 10-day session. And Marc St. Pierre, I got him to teach one class together with on the island of Ré, just off of La Rochelle in France. And that was a great experience, a great memory. So
that's it's exciting. It's a what do they call it? A storied career. It's great. It's great. Just the curiosity, going back to the wine and spirits business again too. I mean, a lot of artists have to maintain another profession, another job, in order to stay afloat. With that,
survive. Yeah,
survive.
We all need to find something to balance and survive. I mean, right? Except I think very few creatives get lucky enough to just live off their creative work. But so that led. So you were going to ask. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's fine. This is just free flow. And things do jump into your head, in a conversation, whether sometimes asking the question and sometimes listening to an answer. But was there a period of time that you couldn't paint or stopped painting?
There's lots of times. Raising two boys and starting this import business and maintaining a house and traveling as much as we do. There are a lot of periods that I go through where it could be 6 months that I don't touch a paintbrush over the years. I mean, now that I've got this far, and our youngest has just started attending college this year, it's gotten a little better. But in fact, I've done more painting in the last 4 weeks with this coronavirus than I have in the last 6 months. And so that's, if anything, that I guess would be a silver lining to this difficult crisis that we're all going through, this national emergency. So that happens. But I think I just learned to accept that a long time ago. That if I was going to continue to paint, and it's something I have to do, I would just have to adjust to every new situation and do it when I have the time. So when I have the time and I see the time is there, I pull out the paints, the brushes, the easels, and hunker in and try to get a little series together. So over my life, I guess I've just, and sometimes the style will change because you go through a period and you're not picking up on the last period. So I just start fresh with whatever I'm feeling, with whatever I'm interested in, whatever a subject or content gets my attention, and or style or form, and then just end up doing a new series and playing with that. And like my teacher, my professor at UC Berkeley, Joan Brown, used to say, I find a good bone to chew on, and then I chew on it and try to get the marrow. And that would be a series. And then, then there's another time where, that would start where I'm not painting, I'm not creating, I'm not doing anything for another 6 months or 4 months or whatever. And then I get back to it. My goal is to just get to a more sustainable part. But, I don't know. I can't complain. Sometimes you're getting away from it refreshes you and keeps you from getting stale. And you know.
Yeah, I remember at a gathering of our BFA 75 painting students. It was one of the first gatherings I had an opportunity to go to, and I always thought it was a little odd because I went for a long period of time, working in advertising, working long hours. It's head work more than physical work. You get home, you're just like conceptually depleted, exhausted, emotionally drained, the whole 9 yards. But I had this thing in my head that I did all the time, and I thought it was unique to me. And I remember bumping into several people. It's funny because you go back with your classmates; they're all around the same age, and everybody's pretty much had the same kind of experience. They didn't take off like a rocket and get a New York gallery and all that other stuff. And they had to put down the paintbrush, and they had to get to the survival aspects and so on and so forth. And I think it was John Drought said, when I couldn't paint, I continued to paint, but in my head. I painted every day in my head. Every time I looked at something, I wasn't looking, I was painting. And I said, John, that's exactly, and I heard several other people chime in the exact same thing. So, we were trained that way. You look at things and you just can't let them go. You want to know how they're made, how they come apart, how do you put them back together, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So absolutely, I agree with you 100%. I mean, I'm never not painting in my mind or when I'm looking at. I'm never not noticing and composing and thinking. And that's why I love my iPhone, because I take pictures all the time.
Yeah.
And I do work from the photos sometimes, not completely, and I'm not trying to create a photo, although there was a little period in my development. Well, when I started teaching at Bridgewater State, I'm trained as an oil painter in oil paints, and that's what we did at Swain. But when I started teaching there, they had passed a rule: no oil paints. You can only teach in acrylics. And I had done some acrylic, but I decided to. I wrote a grant to study with this friend of mine who is an acrylic painter exclusively, and he's a photorealist. His name's Peter Evans. He's an English painter, but he lives in France, and I knew him through these summer workshops I was doing. So I arranged, and I got the grant, and I studied. I went to France for 2 weeks. Basically every day he and I painted together, and I learned his techniques, and I understood more photorealism and acrylic paints. So I mean, I use oil and acrylic, but lately I've been just focusing on the acrylics, but trying to use them like oils. So anyway, but I'm never not looking, and I do refer, and I think we all do sometimes, and there's refer to some photo references, and in whatever way you need to, you can mix it up or whatever. Anyway, now I'm blabbering.
For you, no. I mean, one of the reasons why I gave up oil was with the terpene. It was the Grumbacher terpene. It smelled like oranges. Yeah. For some reason, it would get my appetite going like crazy. I couldn't quell my appetite. And the other reason was in a situation I was in. It just wasn't convenient to paint with oil because the cleanup was you had to be a lot more fastidious in the cleanup, and the acrylic was just way easier. But the one thing I hated about the acrylic, well, two things. One of them was the feel, the tactility of it on the canvas. Mm-hmm. It just didn't have that same butteriness that oil did. And the other thing was the colors to me were they weren't exactly like, they were too acidic. They were sort of like garish, and that was one of the two reasons. Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's advantages, but I think there's a lot of ways over it. I mean, I learned a lot through working with Peter, and also working with another friend of mine who actually worked for Winsor Newton, and he introduced to me to a lot of the different mediums they have. They have that you can use with acrylic paints, and I know a lot of people are purists and like, oh, I got to have oils and all that stuff. But I swear, I think a lot of people would never even be able to tell the difference between a good oil painting and a good acrylic painting. If you know, if tested, I should say.
Yeah.
And they are a lot safer. I mean, I think the most difficult thing for me to adjust to was the drying time. And even that now they have the drying time between coats and layers and
Right. Right.
on wet, and but there are mediums that you can use to adjust that. So I know there's still a lot of purists out there who don't even want to try acrylics, and they're using that. I was, again, for me, I was in a situation where I had to adjust. I did. I still see the advantage in both, and for sometimes the advantage of acrylic is just outweighs the any of the advantages I see in oil. So
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, no, the other thing too is Ed Tonieri was one of my instructors at SMU, and he was the leading developer of acrylic paints. He worked with the Beaucourt brothers on Canal Street or Pearl Street.
Hmm.
Pearl, I can't remember, down in that same neighborhood, and he was a colorist. It was there are a lot of advantages. Plus, there was a lot of tricks that he taught us. Because back then, if you were doing a lot of scrubbing work on your canvas, the acrylics would tend to suds up. So he would tell us to keep some ammonia handy in an eyedropper and just put a couple of drops in there. It would stop the sudsing, and a
Mm.
couple of other things. But I don't know. It is just so many reasons and so many. Yes, there's so many reasons why you just evolve as you do. So currently, I saw one of your latest pieces, the Star Drive-In, which is behind you.
Oh, yeah.
Uh, yeah, I saw. Yeah,
One on the
and
back.
that was just around the time that John Prine, was brought into the hospital with COVID-19 on life support, and it's so weird because I mean I've been to the Star. I've been there probably more times at night than I did during the day.
Mhm.
In its first, well, like maybe one of its first manifestations, because it's had a lot of them over the years. There's been a lot of years where it just sat empty, but there was just something there that just captured this whole verve of the drive-ins,
Yeah.
and then I mentioned Prime because "Far From Me," one of his songs, it just that to me that was like the set for Far From Me, as Kathy is closing up the diner,
Mhm.
Um, and that's my interpretation. That's my viewer's share, as Gombrich would refer to it. What were you feeling when you painted that? And this is also kind of cool, having a podcast on Skype, because you're in your environment and I can see things, whereas like you come into the studio, I got nothing. you know?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm glad you mentioned that painting because well, it's what did I feel when I was doing it? Well, like you, I grew up with Star Drive and being there. I never went to it, but every time my family drove up to Boston to see our cousins, um, we um, we drove by. We were on 140. We looked over the corner of the street, the highway, and we'd see the Star Drive. And for some reason, it captivated us as kids. This is, I guess, just after McDonald's started and all the fast food joints started opening up. But there's something about it seemed fun, interesting. It called to us, and I don't know. It's so Americana, but the colors, the light, the stars. We want to stop and get ice cream. My dad would never stop. We never stopped there. And then years later, I moved here to Lakeville, and it's there. I think we did take the kids after baseball games or something, but it just always had a feeling like an Edward Hopper painting, like of Americana, of something about our culture on the side of a highway with some picnic tables and some pine trees behind it, and the light just when the neon comes on. To me, it always had a kind of a magic. It wanted to be a painting. It needed to be a painting, and so I think I'm on my third star painting now. That's the third one. One of them is at night, one of them's at day, and one of them sort of in between. But I just want, it was one of those subject matters I was drawn to, and I'm probably not done because it's just, I think it's a great subject matter, and I've got great response to the paintings. So.
It's kind of ethereal, and plus there's a feeling of innocence, to tell you the truth. You know, if you remember going to those places, because they were what they were. They weren't trying to be anything else. They were a little garish in the signage and such like that, but it was like, that was the American bravado of the day. And then if my dad were here with me, you know, he always called me the hot dog kid, because he said no matter where we went, no matter what time of the day it was, he always knew what I wanted to eat. What do you want to eat, Ronnie? He would say, and I said, hot dog. And then the footlongs, those damn footlong hot dogs, which I don't think you can even get those anymore. Right. But there's nostalgia. There's all those other things, and you know, it's great. So what are you on next to? We've got a few more minutes left. You know, we can start wrapping it up, but. You want to do a review of where everything has been in your life, or you know, what would you like to be remembered for? I always ask that question too.
Oh, I don't know. You know, as a decent regular guy who you know, was who appreciated I don't know, the art of life and the life of art. You know? So I don't know, but I'll tell you one other thing that I wanted to plug, if I can. So as I mentioned, we just recently bought a property in France. It's an old farm property in the middle of the Cognac region, and our goal is to turn it into sort of an artist retreat. And we just started this. We bought it last summer, and we've been working on it, and you know, to do workshops there and such in the end. But we were just in the middle of sort of renovating when all this happened. In fact, we're supposed to be there now, working with some of the general contractors, but of course they all are restricted from doing it. So it may be delayed longer than we wanted. We were hoping to open and have some sessions there in the summer of 2021. But depending on how things go, that may be delayed. I don't know, but I thought I'd plug it to any of the art people who like to travel and like to eat well and like to maybe draw and paint and photograph in the country of France. Someday we'll be offering workshops there.
I definitely would personally like to look into that. I mean, you know, we've had this conversation a million times. My family's from Normandy, from Dieppe. Saint-Jacques de Dieppe, and I always wanted to go back there. You know, the family's been over here since 1654, and I always wanted to stand there and have the, you know, like I said, a boudin noir and a nice roll in one hand, and a Calvados apple brandy in another hand, would that be some sort of a way to conjure up my ancestry, the spirits, you know, or whatever, or it would just be plain fun to do. And after having had the opportunity to live in Portugal for a year and getting used to the European lifestyle, I'd like to go back. A retreat would be a fantastic thing. And then just the food alone, obviously, is you just can't. if you haven't been there, if you haven't eaten there, you can't describe it. It's just described. Having conversations with them about what we call organic food, and they're looking at you with blank expressions on their face, trying to be polite, and then you see the light go on in their head and says, "Oh, I know. You know what we call that food here?" It's like, what? Food.
Yeah. They take it for granted, but yeah, it's just such a high priority in the culture.
Yeah.
And they have, you know, it's like they have so many great ingredients there. Everything grows well there. So
yeah,
fruits and vegetables, the cheeses, everything. It's great. So with that in mind, we're actually thinking of offering a week-long basic French cooking class too. We have a friend who's a chef there. He's a teacher, culinary at a local culinary school too. So you know, one of the things that we're thinking about.
That sounds fantastic. I mean, that's like one of those things that some people might think it's the hoi polloi, but it really is an experience that it's, again, you have to experience it. It's something that, I mean, I much rather do that than do the Caribbean cruises, like myself and 6,000 other people on a boat. Like, no, thank you.
I'm with you.
Or Disney World, that sort of stuff. No.
No. And yeah.
So, what's the next chapter after this?
I don't know. I mean, survive the Corona thing, and keep our business on track. We're actually working on. Just before you called, we were setting up our home bar as a video studio, because we're going to be doing training videos. Because normally we're out visiting one of the 35 distributors across the country that carry our products, and we're walking around or training some of the sales staff on what the products are, how they're made, where they come from, how to drink them, what to share them with, and that kind of thing. So we can't do that now. So we're working on a little putting some short 2-3 minute videos to send out to our distributors across the country, that they can train their staff with that. And it's creative, it's fun. We've never done this before, but we hope we make it interesting enough that people want to watch them and learn about how to drink French spirits.
Well, thank you so much, Dan, and hang in there. I want to speak with you after. Thanks once again for joining us, and with painter Dan Cooney, and we wrap another episode of the In Focus podcast. And thank you very much, and catch you next time with our next guest.
Thanks for listening to the South Coast Artist Index podcast. For more information, please visit theartistindex.com.